Dale, got a sec.
Yeah, what's up, mate?
Got a problem here. Got this customer here, just dropped down, just walked in, he's waiting on site. He needs to hire a car. I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me out?
Okay. Yeah, of course, no problem at all. So what have we got?
An A3, engine
Yeah.
manual on dash. Basically, it just needs to get him in a hire car and get him engine.
Okay, and the customer's on site waiting to go
Correct.
into a hire.
Yeah, you should.
Okay. What was your thoughts on it? How did you want to play it in terms of a hire car?
Well, I was thinking either using our own car or get a car from Enterprise.
Absolutely. The downside with us getting the car from Enterprise would be the fact that the customers here, and obviously if they go away, as we know, Enterprise have not got a lot of stock at the moment, so there'd be a bit of a delay to the customer. In the interest of customer satisfaction, I think the best solution would be to use one of our internal cars. On that basis, the customer can have a car here on site and they're not having to wait for 24 hours, 48 hours, having to get taxis. It makes the process a bit smoother from the customer's perspective. So in order to start the process, the first step is going to be to raise a DIS report. So we're going to need the customer's details, and if you've got the key by there,
I do, yes.
if we use the key reader, get the mileage as it stands right now, and then we can set up a DIS. I can show you how to do that. So if you log into Elsa, so when we put the chassis through, we want to get it to the stage where we get to the customer coding part. Are you familiar with that part of Elsa?
Not really, no.
Essentially what we're doing is we're confirming the fault with Audi and letting them know that there's an issue on this car, on the date and the mileage. So when we submit the request, Audi UK can see it, see why the car's coming in, a justifiable reason for it being off the road, and then they authorise the necessary request then. And that's how we'll communicate with Audi to keep them up to date with what we're finding and how long the car's going to be off the road then.
Okay.
So if you were to go into the DIS report section on the right hand side, and start making a DIS report, it appears there was one already open on a previous repair, so you would ignore that one and go on to create a new order, and let you fill out any details of what the customer's told you, because at this point it's all based on the customer's perspective of the complaint, not what we interpret to be. We can deal with that in the workshop.
Okay. Lost no engine manual on dash, no loss of power.
Exactly that. And then all we would do for the customer coding piece is just attach it to the light, because at this moment we don't know any route of where the engine manual is coming on. Obviously it can be on for numerous various reasons, so we won't entertain trying to guess. We'll keep it as vague as possible due to the fault that the customer's got. If a customer has a fault that's more specific, like coil spring has snapped and the car's undrivable, we can code the DIS report up to the specific coil spring, because we know that's the failure from the get-go. But in this case, with it being engine manual, it could be a variety of reasons, so we just attach it to the engine. So
you say it's attached to the engine light, where would I find that?
So when you go on the main DIS, you go on selection, the top left. On the right hand side, you'll have the whole vehicle section at the very bottom.
Okay.
And when you go through that link, it'll give you an option for warning lights. Then you just click down to the one that's referenced engine management light, and then where you've gone from whole vehicle to lights to engine, you've coded up to level 3. Audi would expect it to be coded to a minimum of level 3, ideally up to a level 5, which starts going into more detail, but due to the fault we don't really have that information. With a coil spring, as an example, you have whole vehicle, suspension, spring, and then if we knew it was broken, we can go steps further and complete the coding as that stands.
Okay.
So once you've got the DIS report raised, you're happy that the information is correct?
Yep, looks good.
We move it on to Mobex.
Okay.
What we first want to do with the hire car that we're going to use our internal one, it'll allow the customer to have the car immediately without waiting, as we discussed. So we want to go onto internal replacement vehicles. We're going to want to make sure that that car is available for the customer. So when we raise the inquiry with Audi on Mobex, we can attach the loan car So then essentially we get paid for that car being out every day, so it's utilised. It saves enterprise getting involved, and then it allows the customer to have a swift process in terms of within the next 10 to 15 minutes we can get them out of here in a hire car, and then we can keep doing that until the car is fixed. So Audi support us, and the customer's happy because it's a very smooth and clean process with no messing around really. So what I do now is it looks like that car is available, so you can see the actions on there. That's good to go. So you can go straight into the workload now, and as it's a recovery we want to go VOR.
How do we get to that?
So you go on create request, VOR, manufacturing defect. Now you put the reg in. You put all the customer details there to the centre. So if you're happy they're correct,
Okay.
if the customer told you they're correct already, we've got all the details set
Yes,
up.
I asked him first.
It looks like we sold the vehicle anyway, so that should all be accurate. It pulls that data from VMS because Audi UK will want to contact the customer if there's any issues. Because we're supplying the car, it's not as important. It's mainly there for if we're requesting it from Enterprise, that data gets sent to them for them to communicate to the customer to arrange everything. So all we want to do now is input everything from the disk so Audi can see why we're requesting this with the disk number on the right hand side.
Okay.
And then once you've done that bit, just put the mileage in. That's the handy thing with the T-reader, saves you going outside, getting your hair wet.
Yep.
And
Okay.
once that's all in now you scroll down to the bottom. This is where it would differ from an internal car to a enterprise car. The process up until this point is very much the same. However, if we were going to request an enterprise car, if our internal vehicles were fully utilised, we would press the button to request a supplier vehicle, which then sends the request to enterprise via Audi saying we don't have any, we need one. It would give you a description box to say that. In this case, because we've got our own fleet of cars for recoveries reserved, and one is free to utilise with this customer immediately, on where you've made sure it's freed up before getting to this section, you would now click the use box, and that is allowing you to select this car to go to this request. So what will happen is when we submit this to Audi, they will see their end, the description of the fault with the disk report to confirm the fault has occurred today to match the theory of that is a recovery right now. Then we also have the hire car, so they will then authorise the mobility, so they start paying us for the use of that car. And essentially every day we will update them with an update on parts, anything like that. So if we diagnose them and need some parts, we get the extensions as long as we go. You'll likely find that we'll get 24 hours to initially diagnose it, so we'll speak to the workshop, and then once we've raised the paperwork and the customer's gone, to facilitate that. The most difficult thing with recoveries usually is when the customers break down, they're of course distressed, there's an inconvenience. What we don't want to do, what we would aim not to do is inconvenience them or infuriate them in any way, shape or form any further. We want to restore any faith that we possibly can, as the sort of motto is if something's gone wrong, how do you deal with it when it's gone wrong? It's easy when everything's going right. So this process now, the customer would have come in 15 minutes ago, within a 20-minute process now we could have them away.
Yep.
It's been prioritised, it'll be diagnosed in 24 hours. We can give all this information to the customer, they're fully aware, and then they can go away. All I would then explain to them is when your car is done, they simply need to bring the car back and they can take their car away. So we try to keep it as limited an inconvenience as possible, because this whole process is orientated around the customer. The enterprise route is slightly harder. The theory with that is more if they get assisted by the side of the road, where roadside become more tenable because the recovery driver will take them straight to the depot. When the customer walks in, there's better use of us using this process. Is there any questions with the process you need or anything that the customer needs answering?
Yeah, I think I'm good.
It's always handy to have, and this would always be the best solution for the customer. And hopefully we can find the source, like I said, some faith with the process and go from there really.
Okay.
All I do now is make sure the internal insurance document is signed, we can scan that over then to make sure they are fully insured our end because they are in our vehicle. Make sure the paperwork that you print off matches the disc, so they got the instruction on the job card. Once you've raised the job card, of course, you want to make sure the customer signed it.
Gotcha.
We don't, with obviously recoveries, we need to make sure that we get the authorization. So with the authorization, warranty we shouldn't diagnose the car without the customer approval. It is a grey area with recoveries. If a car is recovered off-site and is brought in, we can use email, text message confirmation to acknowledge what it's coming for, that they're happy for us to proceed. In this basis, the customer's on site, so all I would do is as they leave, get all the documents correlated in one go. Insurance form, job card, keys for the hire car, make sure you've located the hire car, so it's a swift process, just so the customer is, what do we say? We want them to see it from their perspective, that is a nice clean process and we don't want them to have any doubt. Like, so no more questions, everything clarified there?
Yeah, I think I did everything there.
If you encounter any more issues with the customer has any more questions, just feel free to come and get me, and then we can talk through it. But it looks like if you follow that process now, you should be absolutely fine.
Okay, lovely. Thanks for the help.
Perfect, no problem at all.